Hey guys, Mrs. Valeri. So you're gonna need a ruler, and I'm using a marker on whiteboard. I'm actually gonna use two different colors so you guys can see your guidelines and your real lines. You guys might want to use a pencil with a really awesome eraser, all right? So we're gonna go over 1 point perspective, which means there's only one vanishing point, okay? So I'm going to assume that the edge of my whiteboard is straight. And I'm going to line up my ruler with the edge of my whiteboard. And then I'm going to make, ooh, marker's dying. My horizon line. Now with 1 point perspective, we're going back into space in one location. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that right here. Can you guys see that? All right, so I went ahead into my iPad and I dug back up those images we took of the hallway. Do you guys remember standing in the hallway when we took pictures? So I dug that guy up and I'm going to go ahead and draw that for you guys now. In 1 point perspective, you are looking at a square or a rectangle. You're not looking at the corner of something, okay? So let's go ahead. Again, assuming that my whiteboard is straight, I'm going to use that to create straight lines here. All right. And I'm going to use this edge here. So now I'm going to move that vanishing point to the middle. There we are. All right, so I should have my horizon line, a single vanishing point, my rectangle around it. I made that rectangle by lining up my ruler with the edge of my paper or my whiteboard. All right, so now I'm going to use this vanishing point as a guide. So remember, our hallway at school curves, but I'm not going to make you guys do the curve, okay? Because I'm not that mean. I'm going to line up this guy with this corner. And I'm going to line it up with this corner. Going to line it up. Ooh, look in the way. And out here. So then I need to make this come out into space, right? All right. So I still want my point to be obvious. I'm now going to switch colors. So my guidelines are in brown. I'm going to switch to my real lines in blue. All right, and I'm going to use my measurements here. I'm going to use the 1 inch. All right. You might need to use centimeters on your drawing. It depends on how small, but I do need to get that space. Now I need to intercept both this point, my 1 inch points, as well as my one single vanishing point. 1 point perspective, one vanishing point. So I'm going to intercept both of those bad boys. So now that I've got these lines coming at you, I'm going to make an X in the middle. So from this wide point to this point over here on the edge of my wall. From this point here all the way out here to this edge of my flooring. Then every place where that X intercepts those lines, that is where I'm going to make my horizontal lines. Again, I'm going to assume the edge of my paper or the edge of my whiteboard is true. All right, then I have an intersection right here. So what you'll notice is those squares are gradually getting bigger. And it does it in such a way that it's not a real sudden change, but it's a little bit more subtle. And that gives you guys an opportunity to get an understanding on how to make like a checkerboard floor or even the ceiling tiles that we have at school. So if you need to, you can pause this and rewind and see how I did that again, how I made those measurements. All right. Okay, so I'm changing out markers, but I wanted you guys to now see where we would erase some guidelines. So all this stuff on this wall here, we can now start to erase that stuff that would be inside of my school window, right at the end of that hallway. I'm going to erase that. And then in between all of these guys can also be erased coming out of the diagonal lines that we use to create those. So if you want to go in and start cleaning some things up so you're not getting confused with your pencil, now's a good time to pause and go ahead and do that. All right, so now I want to think about things that would intercept. So I went ahead and I'm going to put in a little garbage can. So garbage can is going to stand into my space, right? Again, I'm assuming that my lines on the edge of my paper are straight. I'm going to use those to my best ability here. And I'm just going to go ahead and put that line in right there. So a little garbage can is going to come out at you a little bit. So this line is a little bit purple, but see how it follows that guideline I put in place? We're going to use that same guideline again as the bottom of my trash can, because my trash can is jutting out into space. It's taking up room. That little indicator is how we recognize that. So then I'm also going to do a doorway, so you guys have an opportunity to see that. So on this wall here, again, I'm going to assume if this is the corner of my flooring, I'm going to assume my lines are easily made straight by using the edge of my paper. All right, and then the roof, it's got to go back to my single vanishing point. And then I'm actually going to indicate space coming down a little bit here. All right, so now I've got this vertical, I've got a horizontal here, and then I've got two different diagonal lines going back to the single vanishing point. I'm going to put in one more vertical line here. Okay, and then that's going to indicate my doorway. So I do have my horizontal here, it's actually jutting out into space a little bit too much. So I'm going to go ahead and erase that. And then that's going to indicate that opening. So now we need to erase those guidelines because we want it to look like you can step foot in there. So that is information we have to give your brain so your brain recognizes that they could walk into this doorway here. I'm going to put a little knobby thing on there. Alrighty. And then I'm not going to worry about shadow on this drawing, but if I were, then you would also want to shadow that floor to indicate you could walk in there. That's another signal to your brain that you're able to step foot into this area here. Also, same with the trash can. You would shadow against the wall on the trash can. And that's going to indicate to your brain that that is a solid object, that if you walked into it, it would hurt you. Alrighty. So you guys can take a moment, look at those images on your iPad and see if there's anything else that you need to add. Okay guys, so we're going to go ahead and put in a window. I moved the camera. Hopefully that helps you guys better. All right, so I'm still using that vanishing point. That vanishing point is so imperative. And I'm going to come up this way, and I'm going to come down this way. And the windows that we have all of these like black things going through them. So I am now going to draw my vertical lines. Again, I'm using the edge of my paper to make sure those vertical lines are true. Now I want to look at this a little bit. I want to clean this up. I want to use this old guideline actually. You know what? I think that's a little low. I'm going to go a little bit higher for that cross beam in the middle. All right, so now I definitely want to erase that because now it's becoming visually confusing, right? Having that extra line in there. So then I want to make sure these corners are nice and cleaned up. So use your eraser. It's there for a reason. So it's not making a mistake. It's just making sure everything is visually easy to read. So I want to see on my image what the framework looks like. Yeah, this bottom is definitely thicker than that. So again, even this line is going to be thicker the closer it comes to me. That is the perspective. So I want to use that vanishing point again. As I am thickening out that line, I want to take advantage of all the tools at my disposal to be as correct as I can be. All right, so then this down here is tile. I am not that mean. I'm not going to make you tile the walls, but I do want you guys to have something jutting out into space, and I do want you guys to have a place where you would walk back into space, like a doorway. And I would enjoy it if you guys do a window on one wall. Then up across the ceiling, we have those drop tile ceilings with the lights. Remember those bad boys? I do think you should attempt to do the tiles again up top. Remember what I did on the bottom was the 1 inch. And I still think the 1 inch is pretty useful. Because you guys are on 9x12 paper, you're probably going to want to make those 1/2 inch or centimeters. All right, again, we're going to utilize the vanishing point, go through the vanishing point as well. Whoops. Vanishing point as well as the points we made. So that line is going to go through 2 points on the intersect. So I'm going through the vanishing point and that point. So it's going to do this again. Remember, our line is all the way out here. This in here is guidelines. That's not real stuff, okay? That's imaginary tools that we use for accuracy. Alrighty, then once I've got those guys in place, again, I would go ahead and make those diagonal lines so that I am able to see those intersections again. Again, using the side of my paper, or in this case, my whiteboard, we assume that to be straight. So we line up our ruler here, make that cross where all those intersections happen, and then as it's coming at you, all of those, you know, ceiling tiles are going to naturally start to get bigger going out into space. So I know not everybody uses this trick, but I do think that the diagonal lines help you guys. All right, so it looks like my marker is dying. Thank you. I'm gonna switch over here. I actually am now in a position where I want to erase some things because I want you to not get lost in your own drawing. So these diagonals here, I'm going to start erasing those guys out. And then in the middle here, it's starting to look a mess, right? So we're going to get rid of those guidelines. But I do want to come back in and put that one vanishing point back in. One vanishing point because it's 1 point perspective, right guys? So I'm going to put that bad boy back in here because I'm not done yet, and I know that that is the key to the whole drawing.
1.
All right, so now I've got my tiles, I've got my floor. To put in those lights, you're actually going to erase every other middle ceiling tile there, and then just do a quick outline of those lights. And I always regret not using my ruler like now. I really do wish I'd used it. All right, so now I want to talk to you guys about the centerpiece of your drawing, which would have been this window here. And instead, I want you guys to use your imaginations and think about something that you would really love and really enjoy to see here. So I'm kind of partial to like sci-fi monsters. So I'm thinking about like, maybe I add, oh, I wish I had red. Maybe I have a monster coming out of the trash can. Or maybe he's been there all along and that monster is a trash can and we've just walked on by because his camouflage is so cool and so good. Then maybe I want to use, I want to go ahead and put in a window. So I'm going to utilize all that I've learned about perspective, put in a window behind this guy, right? Because if you want to indicate that something is broken, you still need to use the rules of perspective. So let's say one of these ceiling tiles is broken. I want to utilize perspective to make it look like you're going back into space here. And we're going to add some shadow on that side. What if this guy's spaceship is coming to get him? So now I need green. Here's his little buddy coming back to get him. Hi, buddy. I don't know. What's another famous monster? Something with teeth, right? So I'm gonna have like an alligator monster. Roar! Roar! Coming at ya. And he's getting bigger as he gets out of the top, and maybe he has a little eyeball, right? He needs to look angry. So we'll put his angry eyebrow on. This guy just kind of looks surprised, right? Surprise is good. All right, and then maybe I want to think about coming out of this doorway here. I'm going to erase my knob, erase my guideline here. And maybe I want someone like waving. Do I have a brown? Maybe I should have a Yeti. Yetis are all furry. Think about your textures. And he's going to intercept this line because he's coming at me. Actually, he's kind of starting to look like Groot, isn't he? All right, my Yeti Groot-like character. And then we're going to give him nice eyes. Right? All right, so I want you guys to do the perspective work. I want you guys to use your rulers. Indicate to me that you know what 1 point perspective is. Then I want you to use color. Any media you have, use it. Crayons, color pencils, paint. I don't care. You use what you have to add color to this. All the color, I want them to be imaginative and fun things broken out of what you have for perspective. I want you to break into it. Use your newfound tools for success. All right. Thanks so much.